And this is, now I'm going to make the switch because we were just talking about things on top of buildings, and that's a perfect segue to our next guest.
If you did those in Lansing, it'd be illegal.
See, my next
Well,
guest.
what are they going to do when the figures come up in Old Town?
Move the mic up right next to, about an inch away. There you go.
Okay.
So you are an Art Prize finalist with an installation on the roof at one of the buildings over there in Grand Rapids. And tell us what goes on with this installation.
Well, I was given the opportunity to show this year at the UICA, which is the Urban Institute of Contemporary Arts. And what I try to do is a site-specific art. Essentially,
Site-specific?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Well, basically, it's that you take a little bit of time and look at the space that you've been given, and you figure out something that you want to do with it. So I've done a couple of those in previous years, and this time I changed the venue from a corner at the Monroe Center in Ionia. I changed to the UICA, and I looked at the building, and I just had a whole bunch of ideas that I was working on, but I thought that it would be interesting and surprising to see shapes of silhouettes of people way up in the building, sort of like surveilling the grounds. And they evolved. They first I thought of them as being more like secret agent people that are kind of like nondescript in a way, always holding their little earpiece and
Secret Service types.
yeah. And but from the distance, as when you do site-specific art, you have to consider the distance from which something is going to be seen, and so I decided slowly they morphed into military figures, because the military figures had more, say, graphic meat, if you will. You could see rifles, or you could see, you know.
The figures really do look military, and
Binoculars.
it would be very hard to know for sure. If it's Secret Service, you don't know that it's Secret Service.
Yeah,
it would be
and-
hard to see from a distance, I would think.
And you know, I mean, for me, all these ideas evolve, or they go places. Sometimes I wanted to do something that had to do with performance. I wanted to have like actors, perhaps, all dressed as secret agents and throughout the whole place, and have their little things in the ear and all that.
Down on the street too?
Mostly inside the venue and in the terrace, and maybe outside too. But I couldn't find the actors. I couldn't, you know, I'm not familiar with that community.
Yeah.
So it morphed. It went to where it, I guess, in retrospect, where it needed to go.
Yeah.
You know, and so they are military figures, and some have binoculars on, some of them have guns. And they're just silhouettes, black silhouettes that I and my friend Grant Guimond, who's a local artist here in Lansing, cut ourselves and mounted. We didn't have much of a budget. And we
They're
set them up.
two-dimensional.
They are.
They look three-dimensional when I see them in the photographs. I think we fill in the other parts, don't we?
I think, yeah, well, if you see them from the front, you could think of them as three-dimensional. If you see them from the side, you don't see them actually, because
Look
they're
through
just
them.
flat.
Yeah.
But we tried to
Are they
posi-
fabricated out of metal?
well, the ones that are really far from the public, we decided to save money and we cut them out of plywood, because we felt that the details wouldn't be that important. The ones that are on the terrace of the UICA, which are right there where people are, we had those cut out of metal. Yeah.
And Bonnie and I were talking earlier, these came up almost at the same time that the White House came under attack. And now you see snipers obvious snipers all over Washington, D.C. They've been there
And
before,
at the
but
same
they're
time that ISIS
in ISIS.
and us launching a new war, I mean, your timing was incredible with raising the issue of the military having such a large presence in our lives.
Well, I mean, you can't, my previous projects have been rather like whimsical and
Yes.
fun, or I'd like to call them even poetic. But I think you can't escape the bombardment of media that is centered. Let's say you have Gaza, you have
Yes, yeah.
erupting, you have the Ukraine, the conflicts in the Ukraine, you have us going back to Iraq, you have Ferguson.
Yes.
I mean, I have to tell you that I didn't know. I came in late when the TV was showing the Ferguson first images from Ferguson, and when I looked at the TV, I looked and I thought it must be from Iraq, because they had these huge like armed vehicles
Right.
there, and and I thought, wow. And then somebody said to me, well, it's really here. It's happening here. And then I learned also of how the military is giving away all these armed vehicles to police departments and all that. But I think all of that.
Able to make friends with the community. You can't make friends with the community from the top of a tank.
No, the tanks look really great in parades, and
Yeah.
They chew on the streets, though.
yeah.
Henry, have you gone over there and watched people watching your work?
Ah.
Yeah, I've gone and tried to have conversations with people, not as much as I used to last year and the year before. I saw the reports, the TV coverage at the beginning, and pretty much I thought that kind of started to frame the narrative of the piece. I mean, if you go and Google Art Prize and you type in snipers, Art Prize, that's what you see, and none of these figures are a sniper, but people started to call them snipers. In a blog, somebody said, if these people were really snipers, first of all, you wouldn't see them. Secondly, you'd be
Right.
dead.
Yeah.
But I think the word sniper is almost chosen to give it more violence than it could be. It's more a proactive word than say guards.
Right.
But it's interesting. I mean, people think people have said that they think they're being guarded by these people. They feel safe.
Really?
Other people feel like it's certainly not art and that it's scary. And why would something like this be happening?
They
or
wanted
allowed to
balloons.
be? Huh?
They wanted balloons.
Well, Art Prize is an interesting event. One has to give it to Grand Rapids that they have come up with something that, goes in so many directions. But for 3 weeks, literally, the whole city is out on the streets, going around and standing in line to see art. And I think that is pretty fascinating.
I, on the other hand, am an outlier on that case, by the way. I am someone who thinks that they, rather than have a millionaire be able to, a billionaire probably in his case, be able to dabble and enjoy himself with his money, that we ought to tax that, and we ought to put art in a lot of schools, rather than to allow one billionaire to dictate the artistic taste of a community. So I'm one of those crabby outsiders, Henry, that, suggests that maybe that's, I'd like to see those 1%ers paying more of their money in taxes.
Well, perhaps what you should do is actually invite Rick DeVos to speak, because
Yes,
I
I
think
would love
he's
to.
an absolutely fascinated guy. And I mean, yes, he comes from the Anway family and from the very wealthy families of Grand Rapids, but I have to tell you, as conservative as they are, from my point of view, these people are sinking a lot of money back into their community.
Yes, they do.
And I think that that is something that one should consider and not just dismiss it. And I don't think that Art Price is his personal toy. I think that it's a project that he funded very smartly to make the city more alive.
It's been very successful.
And he also
Traffic jams.
And he also took a big step back and said, I'm going to fund you for 2 or 3 years. I don't know exactly how it works. And then I'm going to move out. I mean, I'll be the executive, whatever you want, but the funding doesn't come from there anymore. It comes from the sources. So I'd invite Rick DeVos to come.
I would love to, because that is another...
He is amazing.
Yeah, I mean, that is, that's another part of what bothers me about, he does what many foundations do. They put a lot of money in for a few years, they do something wonderful, and then they expect the community to pick it up, and almost very few can.
Yeah.
It's so
Grand
difficult.
Rapids is probably unique. They can pick it up.
They may be able to.
Yeah.
I'm not sure
Lansing
if they-
probably couldn't.
Yeah, I mean, that's always a challenge. And I'm not here I'm here more to find out about your artistic vision. Did you go dark in the last year? Because you're right, some of your previous pieces for them have been
They've all been
lighthearted.
high-
Yeah, they are a
high-
high wire act, yes.
No, I don't think I went dark. I just went in a different direction. I don't consider myself an artist at all. I'm a visual communicator. And when I teach at Michigan State in the advertising department. So for me, once a year to pretend or to pose as an artist is fascinating. And what I do really are projects that I learn a lot from setting it up, from finding the venues, from doing all these things, but based on an idea that first of all fascinates me, touches me, and then hopefully it surprises people. I mean, I want people, in all 3 cases when I had the figure called Gravity Matters Little, or last year the ladder hanging from the cable that was called I Want to Be Different, or this one, I want people to look up suddenly and say, oh my God, look at that that's up there. I want that element of surprise. And then obviously for people to create their own narrative. I'm not there to guide them or tell them how to think, or, with the ladder, for example, some people thought it was the most stupid thing they had ever seen in the world, and some people thought it was very poetic, so it's...
The Calder over there, when it came in, it was decried.
Oh, yeah.
And now it's the city's image they use in everything. It's like their logo.
Yeah. I mean, I think that as let's say, when I permit myself to use artist as what I do, if I do art, I am an artist, I suppose, at that time. I believe that an artist should do their work, put it out there, and then it doesn't belong to them anymore, kind of. It becomes public. It's for everybody to interpret or make up their mind about what it might be about.
Good art does that. It inspires conversation in the community.
Yes, and I think it has. It has inspired polarized discussion. And that is not very different than the state of this country right now. I mean, Congress doesn't work because everything is so polarized. And opinions about art prize pieces are almost a reflection of that too.
This is LCC Radio, WLNZ 89.7 here in Lansing, Michigan. We're talking with Henry Brimmer about his juried here in the installation category, and you're a finalist there at Art Prize.
Yes.
People can have until Saturday, is that right, to be able to drive over to see the piece? Does the show close on Saturday night? Will your piece stay up longer because you have to retrieve it?
My piece will stay till the next Friday because I happen to teach Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and I asked for permission to keep it up a few days more that I could go on a Friday and take it down.
Oh, that's cool.
This past Friday, Lansing Community College, where we're broadcasting from, had a major announcement. They've been cleverly adding sculptures to their campus, and now they've got 18 and they're all paid for with a percentage of the construction cost. And it's becoming a little sculpture garden that you can walk around on and see lots of different styles. Every one of them was either designed by, conceived by, whatever you want to call it, fabricated by somebody from either LCC or the local community. So if an art student had an idea to create something but couldn't do the fabrication, someone else did that. It's kind of an interesting thing. I mean, it's a long time coming in downtown Lansing to have art, because we usually tear it down.
I've noticed over the years how much smaller everything's getting. On campus, we have new sculptures now that they keep putting in. There's a little horse by the veterinary clinic, and it's a little tiny horse on this, pedestal, and it's kind of like in the old days, it would have been a big horse, a big bronze horse or something, but I think it's getting so expensive
Meyer
to do.
Gardens, it's the size of 4 houses.
Well, maybe LCC should put up some figures, and if the figures are too much for them, maybe they should put a cable and hang a ladder.
I was surprised. You know what? I was
things
surprised.
that are a little bit different. I mean, I find, quite honestly, the sculptures that I see around MSU or even here, I find them very derivative of things that I've seen now for 50 years.
Yes.
And why wouldn't you be more daring?
I
And do
made a
things-
lot of enemies by saying the same thing with some pictures from the sculptures around campus, which are tiny and derivative.
I try to donate Gravity Matters
Yeah.
Little to the university, and I went to the committees on campus and everything, and I ended up getting a very nice letter saying thank you, but it is not safe, it is not this, it is not that, and and it was ironic because it was actually the engineering department at MSU that helped me calculate all the tensions of the cables.
Well,
and
now we
all
know
of
why
that,
it wasn't
so-
safe, right? That's amazing.
No.
Just kidding. I was really surprised that someone didn't purchase that and put it in their community. I really was.
I know.
I thought, you're using space in a different way, and that's what was so clever.
Where will the new home for these figures be?
Well, a few of them are coming to Old Town,
Oh, cool.
and most probably one will go on top of the building of Cameron Nass at Traction on Michigan Avenue.
A design firm in town?
But, we'll see. I would love them to go around. I tell you that the most amazing experience that I've had was I got a letter from somebody, a lawyer from Virginia, that volunteers to schools to teach them civic engagement. And he had seen the news, and he absolutely loved the figures, and he wanted to pop up a couple of them in the top of his school to start the discussion. And I thought, that's pretty cool. So
That
It's
is
pretty
great.
gutsy, too.
yes,
Yeah.
well, discourse cannot be just tame.
Nope.
And sometimes you have to go out and do things that are outside the accepted or the expected, and see where it goes. I mean, come on, seriously,
Especially in a community like Grand Rapids. I did consult with the police department over there for about a year when we were trying to implement community policing under Chief Harry Dolan, and it is an interesting community because it is very much there is a conservative element and there is a very liberal element, and
Well,
they
the
reflect
irony
reality.
is that the UICA building is right next to the police station, and it was one of our early jokes to say, why don't we ask the police if we could put one of these figures on their roof?
That would have been a nice
And
touch.
it stayed as a conceptual question because Ferguson had just happened. I don't think they would ever have agreed to have it, but...
That police station, by the way, was our failure. Chief Dolan tried to decentralize the police department into 3 community-based buildings, and instead they built him what he called the Taj Mahal downtown, and it was not what he wanted because he was interested in getting back closer to the community, so it was a very interesting era. That would have been quite amusing. One last question, Henry. I'd like to know what the reaction has been of your students.
My students haven't told me their reactions.
Oh.
Carl just took a whole bus of students to
Carl Good.
Grand Rapids yesterday.
Yeah?
My students in my classes, I've heard that 2 or 3 have gone there, and nobody has.
Oh, that's interesting. I would have thought they would have wanted to engage you in that. Well, we'll find out.
Would have thought.
You would have thought.
Well,
Thunk.
I know the first year that you placed a piece there, I felt proud that it was somebody from MSU.
Yes.
I mean, I really did.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, we're not noted for this type of thing anymore, our departments or things. I mean, we just don't do that kind of thing.
And I'm glad to see you being recognized this year for
Yeah,
this.
it's
And
a big deal.
That's a very big deal. I'm really delighted, and I couldn't be happier.
You know, I should. My middle name should be Close But No Cigar, because I've been a finalist now 3 years in a row.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
in the top 25 the first year, last year in the top 5, and this year in the top 5. And if I win, I'll retire.
Ah.
And do art.
Yeah.
No, go travel.
Indeed. Well, thank you very much
Thank you.
to Henry Brimmer for joining us this evening, and you can still see his installation even after Art Prize closes on Saturday night. It'll be up for another week, and so you can find it down on the corner of Monroe and
Division.
Division.
No, Fulton and Division.
Fulton Division. Okay, my apologies.